Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Coffee with Christine. I'm gonna try to see because the audio wasn't working so well. So just give me a few minutes. How's everyone today? Hope everyone had a good Mother's Day weekend. Hey guys, good morning. There you go. Welcome to Coffee with Christine. There's a few minutes delay. So I just wanted to make sure that our audio is working. So you guys, today we're gonna be talking about the unaccompanied minor that's crossing the border. And I wanted to say, oh, where's my coffee? Here's my coffee first. I want to say first that this is more concerning international law. So I don't want to give too much opinion since this is not, this is obviously not my expertise, my experience. And in addition to that, this is not the job that I'm trying to go for. So I wanted to add that right off the bat. So we're kind of all in the same expectation. But I guess watching the debate, this is one of the points that is discussed a lot. So I wanted to give it a little bit of a moment because even though international law is not really my focus, I do have some perspective when it comes to this, specifically because of my type of work. Just to give a little bit of background. So, the story that's going around, I don't want to say the story, but the claim, and I've seen this myself. The claim that's going around is that one of the gubernatorial candidates lost 300,000 kids there, and we can think of like awful things that could be happening to those kids, and I think that that's what the conversation is about. So I'm gonna try to, I guess, unpack at least what's going on, what has happened, and what's currently going on, and without being in a good position, which is no position. Being in a no party, it makes it so that I don't need to um, echo their statements. I don't need to echo their ideas. We can just focus on the facts and how it's presented. And then I want you guys also to kind of have your own opinion and have, I want you guys to have the accurate data as much as I could find it, and then make your own opinion from your own based on your own experiences and whatnot. But obviously there's a lot more that we don't know, so I'm just going to present the things that I have. So the claim is that during the Biden era that we unfortunately have lost 300,000 kids. And just kind of to give a perspective to those who don't know, in our borders, Texas, California, which makes this irrelevant also because, we're in California, is that sometimes a child will be crossing the border alone. So they said that the average child is about 11 years old, but we have seen 4 years old, 5 years old, and I've seen them myself. So what they would do is that these kids will cross the border alone, and they would have like a phone number with them. So either in a piece of paper in their pocket, or sometimes it's written in their hats or in their backpacks. And I was shocked when I heard this. I heard this maybe 4 years ago because I didn't know that they were doing that. And there's a few reasons that that's being done, and then currently what we're doing now. And to give you guys a perspective, during the Bush administration, we have about 8,000 kids crossing the border unaccompanied. So we call them unaccompanied minor. And then during unfortunately, era, it increased to like 130,000. So from 8,000 yearly to 130,000. And so, there's obviously like a lot of concerns about this. The media was trying to go in those facilities which is good of media to try to see what's going on. They're not allowed because of COVID and things like that. But it was definitely max capacity for a lot of these places, and people are getting upset. People are getting upset because they're like, oh, it's not a good situation for the kids, and all that. But I, again, I'm trying not to put so much of my own opinion, but this is not, I guess it's not sustainable. And I think that's one of the focuses, period, is that sometimes, even though we have good intentions, even though we mean well, and you can see this everywhere, there's like actual logistics and there's actual finance that is necessary to make those plans come true. And so for people, it's not really, not just nice, but it's also actually against it to be doing things or proposing things without following through. I think, that's my, because I see this at work all the time. So everyone can make good promises, or anyone can say, hey, they should do that or they should do this. But unless you're there, it's kind of hard to make that decisions, right? So that's also why I'm trying to say out of the bat that that's not my forte, and it's really not the job that I'm applying for. Although, we have, I guess, a little bit of say when it comes to our borders, in a sense that you have to have some relationship with the federal government, because that's the only way to do it. So, like, just that fight, it doesn't make sense to me. So anyway, so from 8,000 kids, now we have over 100, or like 130,000 kids that are crossing the border. And there's multiple reasons for it. So one of the reasons is that, and they did this, so they would interview those parents that are sending their kids alone. And they actually say that it's because they think that the president is nicer. So they think that the kids will stay, right? So that's one. And then in addition to this, and you see that even now, that people are getting interviewed and they're saying, oh yeah, we'll wait until the term is over, which is not, I think this is not how a country should be run, that they're waiting for a kind president or a not kind president. Immigration law, I think, should be a little bit more not wishy-washy, I hope. But anywho, we overwhelm the system like we've always done when it comes to things like this. And there's a lot of heat, of course, from different agencies. So let me see, what are the agencies? We have Border Patrol, we have ICE, we have IHS. And the sad part is that, again, they're not meant, these departments are not meant to handle, they're not meant to handle this big of a volume of children. And so, we need the message. And again, this is more federal. This is not me. I have nothing to do with it. We need a stronger message when it comes to our position with immigration. I was actually watching how, like a grown up just kind of just climb the wall and just drop like kids on the other side. And then these two small kids, like 4 or 5 years old, have to kind of cross the border, like walk by themselves. It's just so heartbreaking. So when I encountered these kids, it's pretty sad, because I was talking to they're placed in an emergency placement. So your foster parents, and so they're placed with them, and then so they do. They would talk to me, and they would say that what happens is that they place them in quickly in sometimes in these places, and then from then they call the number and try to reunite them with their family members that are already in the States. And sometimes they don't have a family, or sometimes they don't have a phone number. I don't know what happened to those phone number. And I don't mean to get emotional, but the sad part is that these kids, as I said in my other videos, these kids are different. They don't act like regular kids, in the sense that most of the time, maybe 90%, 85 to 90% of the time, when you vaccinate a kid, they're gonna cry, right? That's a natural response, is to cry. And then so sometimes you have those kids that try to be brave, but you can still, like, those kids are also within the parameters of what you consider a normal response, especially depending on the age, right? Once they're getting a little bit older. The interesting part about these kids is that these kids don't cry. There's something in their eyes that it's like they've given up. They've given up in crying, because, as you know, for my clinicians out there, they know that crying is, especially for children, crying is them getting an attention so you can help them. So that's a signal. So for these kids, they don't even cry because that signal don't work. They know that no one's coming. They know that no one's coming to help them. So that's the sad part, is that when it comes to that, you can tell the way that they, I guess, move in the world. You can tell by the way that they respond, and then the cues are just different. So, those kids, you can tell that it's not them being brave. It's not them not feeling. It's actually them. It's almost like, I guess it's I'm not a trauma specialist, but looks like at least an initial side of trauma. But anywho, so as I was saying, the claim that we lost most of these kids is not super true. So they said that they found like 150,000 kids by now. But in reality, I guess ICE was supposed to hand them like court dates during this time, but because there was too many, they like 180 to 200,000 kids were never given like a summon, like a saying, hey, this is when you report to court. And again, I think I understand from a logistic perspective, just because of the volume of people that needs to be managed. But no one wants to say that. They just kind of want to upset you. But there is an upsetting part. Imagine, everyone has a home. Imagine trying to invite 2 family members from out of town, and then all of a sudden, there's 20 of them. So you have to figure things out super fast. But in addition to this, there are unfortunately sad things that was happening during that time. Let me see if I can find it. Because the Justice Department actually sued this group that we were paying billions of dollars to take care of this kids. And so for this group, it looks like it looks like there was really pretty significant accusations of abuse, and they didn't do anything about it. So they filed like 100 different complaints about this group. It's called the Southwest Key Program. It's a nonprofit organization, but this one's in Texas. And then so they have like different shelters. And so from 2015 to 2023, they received $3 billion with a B. But unfortunately, there's some abuse, like pretty severe abuse violations or accusations, I should say. And the organization didn't do anything about it. And what they did was they still hired those people that was accused, and they still stayed in their job, even though there was really risk with these children. But the reality is, most of these kids are not, I mean, especially in California, most of these kids are not in harm's way, because I just watched a video where they're saying, oh, 300,000 kids are lost, and they are somewhere, and they're living in an awful situation, which is not a fair statement, because most of these kids are placed back to their relatives. And the sad part is that um, most of these relatives that are put as guardians for these children also are not documented, so they won't, of course they're not going to go to legal proceedings most of the time, especially in this current climate. They're afraid, so they don't want to expose themselves. That's like logical. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying that it's logical. Another thing is that there's no coordination, which is really one of the biggest flaw in government, which I think hopefully will be changing soon. As I mentioned in the previous video, when it comes to the hospice, because everyone asks, it's like, how come this has been going on? How come no one sees it? It's because the people who approves it, and the people who manages it, and the people who pays for it are three different people, and they don't talk. It's okay to have a specialized or a centralized like approach, but for the most part, it's not cool to not talk. So now, the fraud committee that they have federally, they have like a coordination of all this different agency, which is good. Hi, Barley. Good morning. Barley's here. Hello. So anywho, so they need some coordination, because the border patrol, ICE, IHS, and then the placement people, they're not talking. So that's how you say that you lost them. And again, we didn't have the capacity to. Oh, Barley. So can you get down? Sorry, guys. The funny thing, Barley, I'm sorry, I love you, but can you please go down? Okay, okay. So you guys, I love my dog, but unfortunately, I am allergic to him. So I am allergic to the dog. I think he's saying, why are you talking to yourself? I'm worried about you. So I can't be super close to him. So let me just lovingly push him away. Just a second. Sorry, guys. Barley. Barley happened. Okay, so so majority of those kids are not really lost, in the sense of we can't that we imagine the worst for them. So majority of them are actually in a good place, with their relatives, and they're going to school and doing all these things that other American kids do. But they should be tracked, especially if they're asking for asylum, because we need to revisit um, those cases eventually. But in reality, there are other kids that are being lost, right? And I guess anything but zero is of course an awful number. So what we really need, as I mentioned, is like ordination from these different groups, these different departments. Because one of the things that they mentioned is that we still use like a paper form. Which, if you think about it, it's really pretty bad system. I mean, it's 2026. We have so many tools within our hands, within our fingertips. So going and using like paper tracking is really not a sustainable idea. And then so the manner that I guess we should start. So we need a law that's a little bit more federally. Not that it's my position to make as a governor, but maybe it is. We need a law that's not so wishy-washy to the rest of the world. We can't be using our borders for our political agenda. And both sides are doing this, by the way. We can't use the borders for political agenda to make the other side looks bad. It has to be, we can fight all we want when we're inside our country, but outside, it has to be a united front. This is like a management 101. When you show that you hate your opposition, you hate your counterpart more than anyone else, then some people can take advantage. So we need a stronger immigration law, and people shouldn't be, presidents shouldn't be like using that for their advantage. It's not cool. And for the people that are, because the community unfortunately is responding that way too. That's why a lot of this politician, it's like, this is why it's really not a cool thing to just go opposite against whoever you don't like. Just go completely opposite of everything that they say. Whenever you do something like that, that's a sign that you're not thinking straight. If that's your requirement, there's no logical process or critical thinking process. There's none where you go by the person and just go against that. There's nothing like that. Like, I've never seen like a logical process that is actually effective, that is with that process, because that's what happens when Biden came in. Like all the existing laws that Trump put in, they just say nope, and then they canceled like all of it, at least for a few months. But the damage is done. The rest of the world said, okay, so this president's cool, so we'll just cross, because they will take care of us. So we can't do that, you guys. Like, regardless of like party, you can't just like try to attack the other one. And then the second one is that kindness have a price. And I see this as management. Even though it's not happening in front of you, you have to go, I said this before, you have to go as far as you can in seeing the consequences of these actions. You can't just say, let the kids in, and then go back. I mean, we should let the kids in, but you can't just say, let the kids in, they have a hard life, whatever. And then you go back to your nice, wonderful home and just sleep in your nice, comfy bed without knowing where these kids land. That's really not cool. So if you cannot follow the thought of where they're gonna go eventually, it's not a good process. Because especially another thing, like, I'm very thankful for my management experiences, but another thing is that the resources is not infinite. Like, we run out. So I rather it that we actually purposely, wonderfully help 1,000 kids than quote unquote lose 5,000. You know what I mean? That's not really good for them. I saw interviews in Skid Row, where the kids are living in the tent, and they're like, oh, you guys told us that America will be great, but look at us now. We're like homeless, and the kids are living in the streets. So like things like that. So we need to follow through in like those plans. We can't just, especially if we don't have like a strong hand on it. Like, it's kind of not, I don't think it's right to just make a very blunt and very strong opinion without understanding the resources that is attached to it. It's significant also. I don't mean to always talk about money, but money is a big consideration. Something like from 500, 500 million to like $8 billion of spending. So like all these things have like a place in the budget and in terms of workload. So they need to be considered, I think. And then the next thing is that we need coordination from different departments. Like it's not good, even if we didn't actually lose them, it's not good to know that we don't know where they're at, which is, I guess, a definition of losing. I guess it depends on how you're defining it. But we need like an accurate data on this kid. So we need coordination from different places. But this is one of the concerns when different departments don't want to work with each other, because technically we have that record from the schools. Like we can find these kids, but everyone's trying to like not work with anyone else, which is really not a good way to go. So people take advantage of these holes in the system, right? Because like for those of you who don't know, I'm sure everyone knows by now, I hope, that the cartels, this is part of their gig. They even have like their own like facilities just across in the border. But and this happens everywhere. It doesn't just happen in Mexico. It happens in other countries as well, where the parents pay to get their kids somewhere else. But it's not a good process, you guys. Like a lot of these kids are exposed, let's just exposed to violence and abuse, and outside of the regular, not regular, but hardship of the travel. So it's not a good way to go. So we need coordination within the different systems, and then we need also like a better technology, better tracking. Like it's unacceptable in so many levels with all our advancement for us not to invest in this way, because even if not just for the kids but with everything else, it actually saves money. So when we talk about transparency, sometimes it's hard to be transparent when you don't have easily accessible data. So that data is useful in so many ways, and I think it would save us money like overall. The last thing I want to say that I think we need to do for these kids, in honor of these kids, is that, dude, we gotta stop fighting. Like we gotta stop fighting. Like we can't even get the accurate numbers and accurate data because everyone has a spin. The Republicans had their spin on it, and the Democrats have their spin on it, and it's just so frustrating. It's like, dude, we just want the truth. Like we're all one state, or one country. Like this is our mess, like all of our mess, and we just want like an honest assessment and how we can fix it moving forward. But when you have to dig super deep, to know the actual story, that's kind of not cool. It's kind of not cool. It's so misleading, and it's not good to trick people. And then but the problem too is that they get rewarded because it's people believe them. The hardcore Democrats believe the Democrat rhetoric, and then the hardcore Republicans believe the Republican rhetoric. But most of the time it's actually not there. It's somewhere in the middle. The last thing I want to say is that I think those five are pretty strong, but I just forgot to add that I responded to the buses, when different states like Texas is like putting the people who has crossed the border and put them in the buses and then send them here and to be processed. And then they're like, I don't know if you guys heard that. I'm sure you guys heard that. I hope. It was a hush hush, and they fixed it. Hush hush again. But what it is that they said, okay, you guys are, accepting all this people, and it's causing so much issue from their social resources. So they would put them in big buses and then send them. And I was part of the people who are accepting them, and not politically, but to provide nursing care. But that's kind of how it works, and there's a lot of those people, and it's really like we need to be systematic, and we need to be smart when it comes to our responses to these type of events, because again, you guys, I can't say it enough. It's easy to say we want to do what's kind, but saying that just because and not knowing the resources or the capacity that we have, that's not really cool. It's like your kids saying, oh, by the way, I invited my friend's family to stay over, something like that. So it needs to be a little bit more, I guess. We have to add a little bit of practicality and honesty. I hope that, again, that it's not a matter of whoever's the president and then they keep just going against each other and then rallying their team with the narrative that they created. But hopefully we can all have like a more honest dialogue, and do right by these people that are trying to that are trying to come here with asylum or whatnot, regardless of the age. But definitely I think the kids is the one that hurts the most, for us. So yeah, so I guess that's it for Coffee with Christine. I hope you guys learned a few data that is unbiased, without influence of Republicans or Democrats, but hopefully it's something that we can fix. They have changed a lot of the stuff lately, but of course people don't like that too. But you can't get 100% agreement, which is, I mean, in some ways healthy, because we will always have something to discuss. But yeah, we didn't lost 300,000 kids, and they're not all in unfortunate child labor or whatever they're saying. Unfortunately, there are kids that might be there. That's why we need a better system to identify these kids right away, and hopefully we can make sure that we have a good place for them. But anywho, I hope all those kids are safe and playing and about to go to school. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next episode of Coffee with Christine. Bye.